Welcome, everyone, to Kingdom Kickoff. The Holy Triumvirate is back once again. Clint Schweitzer alongside Noah Groniger, and back with us this week for Week 18. Yes, that's the first time those words have ever been uttered in NFL history. It is Week 18, and our guy, Rich Baldinger, former KCTV5, former Kansas City Chief, is back with us, feeling much better. Rich, how are you doing, sir?
Much better, guys. Ready to go. Listen, I had a little setback. I won't discuss it. That was a tough loss last week for the Chiefs, kind of an ugly loss. But if you want to discuss where I was, it really was ugly. So let's move on to some new land here. Let's head up to the Mile High and talk about the game against Denver, because the last Sunday, might have been a little painful for some people to watch me.
It was. We certainly don't want to relive that.
No, and other than what you were going through.
I tell you what, the old got the old wintertime flu last weekend. So,
right.
But feeling much better, ready to go now, guys, and ready to start some playoff football. If anybody can figure it out right now, that's the big question mark. So, going to be interesting football today and tomorrow. Going to go down to the last moment to decide who's going where and where our Super Bowl is going to be, and a lot of other questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions to figure out there, but I mean, the Chiefs lost the 1 seed. They lose a close game to the Bengals. A lot of people are talking about that 3rd and 27 that Steve Spagnuolo had, bringing an all-out blitz. And Travarius Ward looked like he was in really good coverage, didn't make a play on the ball. Jamar Chase skies over him, makes the catch, gets 30 yards on 3rd and 27. The Chiefs end up losing the game. Everyone's also talking about the officiating, the bad calls. What did you make of that Bengals game, Rich?
Yeah, in that one drive, there was a couple calls. The interference call on Snead just didn't exist at all on that one. So, and then, of course, the tackle along the sidelines. What are you supposed to do? I mean, you're in the middle of a tackle. You don't know exactly where you're at on the field, on the sidelines sometimes. So that call, 2 question mark calls on that drive, of course, led to 1 touchdown. Guys, we can also count too, we had the big kickoff return, special teams. I've been asking for points. We had it, and we could have really turned the clock on, I think, Cincinnati with that touchdown at the end of the first half, which would have really put us in good position, but it didn't happen. Penalty there. And, of course, second half, we just didn't do much offensively. The loss of Orlando Brown. Listen, Thuney went out there, played great, but struggled a little bit in the second half. And when we had to sit back and throw the ball, just couldn't get that down the field because of time, man. Listen, quarterback Patrick was running for his life. So, that's what's me going forward. I don't know what the situation is with Orlando Brown. Niang's out, I guess, for the knee with everything. So whether he comes back even next year, torn patella and everything. So a lot of question marks. So let's see what we can put together against a team up in Denver right now that's just struggling and probably going to be mirrored in a coaching change. And I don't know how many other changes up there, because what is this? Their 6th year of no playoffs. So you suspect there's going to be a cleaning of the house up there in Denver after this game.
It is, and I think you're witnessing a moment where I think a lot of Chiefs fans were back in 2012, where the Chiefs played the Denver Broncos in the last week of that regular season. You knew change was coming. You had people just praying for a Broncos beatdown of the Chiefs so that we could move on, and just a few weeks later, Andy Reid's hired, and the Chiefs are off and running. Now, that's kind of where Denver is here. So I think 7 starting quarterbacks in the last 6 years, another failed head coaching experiment in Vic Fangio. And a question that we have right now from our Facebook followers right now is happy game day, guys. Rich, do you think this will be Drew Lock's last ever start in Denver? And I got to preface that by saying Noah and I are very close with the Lock family. We covered Drew at the University of Missouri, one of the more likable people I've ever been around. I really had high hopes for him, but these 3 years now in Denver, it hasn't worked out. Denver has not been able to really hit it on the quarterback position since John Elway has been GM, and now he's a step down from that role. But is this the end of the Drew Lock era in Denver, Rich, today?
I don't think it's the end. I don't know if Drew Lock has ever had the coaching. I don't know if Pat Shurmur is the guy for him. I mean, you really got to look at some of these coaches now. Is it Callahan up there in in Cincinnati, the offensive coordinator, has done so much good things with Bowl in terms of, Jeff Burrow, on where to be in the pocket. You saw him move around really well, elevate his game. I think Drew Lock just has not had the coaching. And that's where you got to, and this might be that turning point in his career. You want to get those people around him, because he's constantly, a lot of his interceptions are the same mistakes, the repetitious, not seeing the field where he needs to be, not getting rid of the ball, taking some sacks when he shouldn't be. So I think there's a lot of coaching that he hasn't had. You can talk about college, but you know what, guys? Let's be honest. There's the college game and there's the National Football League. And when you're in that quarterback position, you've got to be able to elevate your games. The good guys that are proving, like Burrow, like we saw last week in Cincinnati, done a remarkable job in his movement in the pocket, improving. I think Drew Lock just hasn't had that coaching, and that's what you got to look at going forward. And again, also, too, the offensive line, they've been sacked 39 times this year again between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. That doesn't bode well for your quarterback, building confidence with his receivers. Judy's out again with injury. So it's been a myriad of things up there between head coach, coaching coordinators, offensive line. I mean, trying to put the whole thing together, it just seems like it's just been a mishmash of problems. So that's why this doesn't bode well, I think, for Vic Fangio after this one. I think they're going to move on, Denver and the organization, and try to bring some cohesiveness, because I don't know if you really can say this. Drew Lock's been given a fair chance. I really don't. He's too good of an athlete. I did all of his games in high school, so I just feel like he's got a future if he's given a chance.
Yeah, and I mean, the Broncos, the last time we played them, had Javonte Williams going crazy in the run game. Of course, Melvin Gordon's going to be there as well.
Yep.
The Chiefs are going to have to figure out a way to stop those two and make Drew Lock one-dimensional, just a passer, not being able to rely on that run game play action. But the Broncos are going to be without Bobby Massey, Dalton Reisner, two of their guys on the offensive line, the secondary down, two corners, and Ronald Darby Jr., and Pat Surtain. Of course, they got Kyle Fuller, but that experiment hasn't worked well for them, him coming over in free agency. What are you looking for the Chiefs? What are you looking out of the Chiefs this weekend here against the Broncos? Because we're heading into the playoffs on an 8-game win streak. Before the Bengals game, people thought we had everything fixed offensively, defensively. What are you looking for them to fix here going into this Broncos game and the playoffs?
Well, one of the things out of the Cincinnati game, we pretty much did a good job on mixing. I think they ended up with only about 70 yards rushing, Cincinnati, in that game. So we did some good things. It was just some big chunk plays that proved costly. But let's be honest, that trio of receivers for the Bengals might be one of the top, if not the best, right now in the National Football League across the board. I mean, T. Higgins is a receiver, Boyd's a receiver, and we know what, the other guy, Chase, too, what he's all about. So, I think we ran into a very good team that understands about winning. They got a good coach in Zach Taylor. So, I mean, they did some things against us. I would like to see the Chiefs continue what we did against the run. I mean, you've got to be able to stop the run going into the playoffs, because no matter who we play, whether it would be the Chargers or the Colts, both of those teams can run the rock. And they're going to establish the run. They can. That's what they feel like. Hey, if we keep the Chiefs' offense off to the sidelines, got a chance. So I like to see us continue that offensively. Hey, is Orlando Brown healthy? Can he come back and play today? Let's see how he does. We got to get our offensive line back, solidified, ready to go. And let's just make sure in the second half when we can put some consistency with our drives, make some plays. And, if that means just short passing game to get down the field, then let's do it. But let's put points on the board when we have to. You just can't go with a field goal in the second half and National Football you expect to win football games.
Rich, I got to be honest. I'm one of those organized sports brains. I don't like change much. And here we are, and change is afoot. This is week 18. Normally we'd be starting the wild card round of the playoffs here this week. Instead, we're still in the regular season here and on the second weekend of January. It's kind of crazy, right? Not only that, we had another playoff team last year, and starting last year, the 2 seed no longer gets a bye, which is going to probably affect the Chiefs this year, not getting that first round bye. What do you make of all these changes? The NFL goes to 17 regular season games. Do you think 18's on the horizon? And with that being said, with all these changes coming around where it's very hard for me to stay focused, I'm an anxiety-ridden person now over all this. We might just be moving the Super Bowl out of LA a couple weeks before the game. What is going on here, Rich?
Well, I'll tell you what, welcome to the world of COVID, hon. It's turned everything upside down. I won't even go down that road, folks. Let's just leave that for another show. Where we go with all this, and I think we're going to have to figure this out sooner or later, because it's affecting the sports world greatly now. To move the Super Bowl even now, as we were talking before we even started our podcast, it's a huge thing. I think it's gigantic. How long do you wait before you go? And it's a big decision, because it's not only the hotels for teams and everything and the media, but how about all the people who just descend on the city that are coming down there for 4 and 5 days of party and good time and everything. So you've got to be able to make amends for all those people too. So a lot of question marks going forward. Listen, guys, the one thing I don't like was only the first round team getting a bye. I think the first two, I should have stayed the same. I think the Chiefs, and after a game like that against Cincinnati, would have been loved to, be able to come in and just kind of have a walkthrough against Denver and then move on. But it isn't, and this is what it is. And the National Football League, in terms of building revenue, wants more games. So this is what it's going to be going forward, and you just have to live with it. So it's going to be tough, but for the Chiefs, it's going to be a long road. But listen, they won 8 straight. They understand what it's going to take. I think a lot of good things I saw in that game, still some question marks, but let's see what they can do in terms of turning around today against the Broncos.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have had a lot of trials and tribulations this year, starting off the season 3 and 4. Everyone talking about that cover 2 shell defense. How are they going to be able to figure it out? It looks like they've started slowly to figure it out. People are wondering what happened in the second half of that Bengals game, only putting up 3 points, but they only had 3 drives because the refs kept drives going. The Bengals made plays. You got to give credit to them. Tip your hat to Jamar Chase coming up with those great catches, although they were contested by Travarius Ward.
And add the other call in there. As I was just saying, we talking the penalties. How about the call on Wiley on the 3rd and long? His hands are inside the framework of the body. He's driving his legs, and then the official calls holding. He was going to body slam the guy. I mean, what is the rules now for offensive holding? I thought your hands are on the numbers in the framework, you're okay. Now it's like you get a flag half the time. So to me, the inconsistency in the NFL on some of these calls are just, and especially you can say, well, you're nitpicking. No, I'm not, because in a game against a team like the Cincinnati Bengals, where they're at right now, it's only a few calls here or there. It makes the difference in the game. So question mark on that. And I think 2 of those, one offensively, 2 defensively, proved to be costly for the Chiefs in that game.
Yeah, people were asking a lot of questions about the referees and are wondering what are penalties now, what is pass interference after looking at that, what is a late hit. But I want to quickly go to this clip of Steve Young talking about the Chiefs going through those trials and tribulations and coming out stronger on the other side.
And that's what happened to the Chiefs this year. Defenses said, you know what, screw it. We're not Travis Kelce running all over the place, Tyreek Hill running deep, no more. Just back up and force you to play, be human. Just drop it off. And they struggled. Patrick struggled a little bit, but they faced the challenge. Remember, was it late October they were losing games, or maybe it was middle October? Like, who are the Chiefs? What's going on? Well, the league said no more, and they had to adjust, and then they did, and now the league has no answer. I think the Chiefs are better today, more dangerous today than they've ever been, because they now have all the arrows in the quiver that they needed. The defenses go, well, we have no answer now.
I thought that was interesting because, the Chiefs are more dangerous now. They still have some things to work out, of course. They have to have the ball more than 3 possessions in the second half. That'll help a lot. But they are more dangerous now going through what they went through early in the season.
I agree with them. I think we're doing better. Watch us in power football. We run the G game real well, the counter real well, the trap. We can go at people physically. I thought some of this in the second half, I thought our protection wasn't where it needed to be. Patrick was out of the pocket pretty quick, and they did a pretty good job of forcing us in terms of getting him to one side, and he couldn't quite make the throw, so we couldn't continue some drives in the second half. So got to do better there. Got to do better on protection. And, this will be the challenge going up there this week in terms of just putting all the little things together. A couple pad pass sets here and there. But again, when you have a backup, when your starting guard is playing left tackle now, and you got a guard back out at right tackle, and Wiley, we know he's a better guard than tackle, but he's done well so far for most of the game. So, again, the Chiefs are in the same situation, almost like last year. I hope not, in terms of, remember, both tackles gone, Schwartzy and Fisher. So it proved to be costly in the Super Bowl. So hopefully we get this answer today up there in Denver.
We know John Alt never hardly missed a game in his NFL career. For you to have to slide over and perform something like that, Rich. I mean, we just get John Alt. I think he probably started every game for about 11 straight years. So never had that problem. But Rich, I want to talk to you a little bit about championship pedigree. Noah and I talked about this on our Elite Sports podcast earlier this week. And to me, you look at the Chiefs are currently 1-4 against AFC playoff competition, but the Chiefs 3 straight AFC championship games, 2 straight Super Bowls, very, very narrowly could have been 3 straight Super Bowls if not for Dee Ford. lining up off sides. The Chiefs have the championship pedigree. They are the gold standard in the AFC currently for the past few seasons. What does that mean? How much of a help is that going to be for this team going forward? Is they're going to have to avenge probably 3 losses to get back to the Super Bowl? You've lost to the Chargers, you've lost to the Bengals, you've lost to the Bills, you've got losses in there, and then, of course, you've lost to the Titans. So you might have to avenge 3 losses. They did avenge 2 losses 2 years ago to get their championship pedigree. Rich, to me, it means something come playoff time.
I think so, and I just want to begin on the defensive side of the ball. I know last week, a couple big plays. We blew coverage one time, which proves costly. But sometimes you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You're rotating people in coverages from cover 2 to cover 1 to cover 3, in and out for the blitz. Sometimes just proved to be costly, and they did. And they made one other big play on us, But again, Chase, it was a jump ball, and that's what he's one of the best in the National Football League. So you give them their credit. They're going to get some points on you. Couple of the other ones, I'm going to say the officials might have helped them out a little bit there along the way. So, defensively, I just think we're in a better position than where we were in the past. I just think you have to look at where we're up front. The front 4 has played better. Linebackers were better. Maybe tackling can improve out the Cincinnati a little bit in the open field. We weren't the best, but overall, that's improved. So I just think the chances for the Chiefs bode better this year in terms of because of defensively what we can do. We can go out there and make some plays. Now it's just, hopefully you solidify your offensive line. Hopefully we're not going in this game again with my left guard at left tackle.
Nope. In fact, it was just announced Orlando Brown's gonna go. So we're just
is he going to go?
This
good.
moment.
Great. Fantastic. I want to get all these 5 guys together because we knew what it cost us in the Tampa Bay game in the Super Bowl last year. So let's see what we can do. Let's put it all back together again. But I just think that the Chiefs need to continue just to work their short passing game, the magic. Let's get the ball out of Patrick's hands quickly. You know what? If we don't hit home run balls, but we can move the chains, keep the drives going, 10, 12 plays, score touchdowns, I'm comfortable with that. I hope we don't get too antsy in the playoffs that we think that we have to hit the home run ball to win games. You know what? People just aren't going to do it, aren't going to let it happen. So let's go ahead and take what the defense gives us, and let's score points every time we do have a chance to drive the ball.
Well, I know one thing that can't happen in the playoffs. That's Daniel Sorensen back at safety in a cover 2 because he came up on that out route. Chase went over his head, and that's 6 points. I don't know why they went back to it. We saw it early in the season. They went away from it. Here it rears its ugly head against the Bengals, and it's an easy 6 for them as Dan Sorensen kind of blows that cover 2 coverage.
And I always thought he's better at the inside linebacker position. Just let him blitz. Just let him blitz. I think he might be determined blitzer. Bring him from anywhere because he's got tremendous speed. He can go and make things happen. And I think that's where he's more effective as a linebacker in there and not back in the coverage. And it proved to be costly where his eyes went. I'm not sure. They didn't communicate on the field, and it proved to be costly for the Chiefs. But I have to agree with you, Noah. I've always said I don't like him in coverage. I would just say, hey, you're an inside backer. You can play there. If they run the football, he can take on his offensive lineman. He can do things. Bring him on the blitz. He doesn't ever get caught in traffic. He tackles well, gets the quarterback. That's where I think they're most effective with him. But, listen, I was going to say, Clint, you know what? I'm not going to get too mad because I'll tell you, if the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl 3 years ago, they probably wouldn't have fired Bob Sutton. So
we've talked about that. No, you're right. You're right. 100%
on that. So, listen, Coach Spagnuolo's done a tremendous job, and I'll tell you what, I'm putting down the marker right now. I think he's going to get a job opportunity after the season somewhere. I think someone's going to come knocking on his door because this is a guy they're going to say, hey, if he can turn this defense around like he's done with the Chiefs, maybe second time around, you think of Bill Belichick, right? Started with Cleveland, didn't work out, goes to New England, and it's been history ever since. I think sometimes, you look around the team, there's probably, about 6 or 7 teams are going to be looking for head coaches. So I think his name's going to come up again if he wants to. That's the big question mark.
Well, we had someone point out to us that Patrick Mahomes is now 12-0 on the road in the AFC West, which is just incredible. The Chiefs have won 12 straight against the Denver Broncos, never before done in this series. To think that it's been since September of 2015 that the Chiefs have lost to this outfit. The Denver Broncos are once, biggest rival there through your time in Kansas City and on into the 2000s. But this Denver Broncos team has weapons. You look at that, the running back position. Noah talked about what the Chiefs are going to be facing with Gordon and Williams, but Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant at tight end, Albert Okwuegbunam, and yes, I said that correctly, former Mizzou guy at the second tight end spot there. For Denver, is it as simple as they just haven't been able to find a quarterback and all this time? You remember you had Trevor Siemian, you had Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, and then they draft Drew Lock. It's just never ending. And the Chiefs can kind of relate to this. This kind of reminds me of the 90s when the Chiefs we just couldn't hit on that quarterback to get ahead of John Elway. And no matter what happened, you could knock him off a few times here and there. You could have Derek Thomas setting records in that final game in 92 at Arrowhead to get in the playoffs and knock Denver out. But when it comes down to it, Denver always seemed to get ahead because they had John Elway and we didn't. Is that where Denver is right now? And not only that, they got Justin Herbert now in the division as well. How does Denver climb out of the hell that they're in right now?
And
not that I want them to.
They thought Teddy Bridgewater might be their guy, but again, Teddy Bridgewater can't stay healthy, can't keep him on the field. So, that they're going forward without Teddy Bridgewater next year. So, yeah, I think it's a question mark. But also, too, I think you've got to also hit on the head coach, too. I think they've not found somebody yet that can put this whole thing together with it. And, I don't know, Vic Fangio was a great defensive mind, but being an assistant and being a coordinator and then being that head coach, so much difference between a head coach and even a coordinator. It's keeping everybody focused. And you got to believe that that's been one of the issues. And then compound that with the quarterback. But even still, though, if you bring quarterback in like Drew Lock, you got to bring guys in. They're going to say, hey, buddy, listen, what you learned in high school and what you learned in college and this spread, it ain't going to work in the National Football League. You're going to learn how to move around in the pocket. You're going to learn how to see and when to get rid of the football because 300-pound men are faster than you in the National Football League. So I looked at Drew Lock and I watched the game tape of him and I see mistakes that he made when he was in college. He's making National Football League. And you do it in this level where the windows to throw into are so tight and so small. If you're not specific on where you need to be and reading and putting it all together, you're going to have issues. And I just look at this whole thing as a mess. And I think the biggest thing you could say is the quarterback position. They've just not found one person that they can build a system around. And, when you're a quarterback, you make mistakes. You don't stay in there very long. It's hard for people to believe in you. And then you rotate people and makes it tough to be successful.
Absolutely. And Rich, on the Chiefs side of things, they got to win to keep that 2 seed, to still have a chance, hopes at the 1 seed if the Texans can knock off the Titans tomorrow. So let's go to your keys to success for the Chiefs to stay in that race for the 1 seed and come away with a victory here in Denver.
Yeah, I just think, how about pass protection? Bradley Chubb, Stephen Weatherly up there. Let's just move. I guess Orlando Brown back, but let's give Patrick a chance, guys. We were better in these games till last week against Cincinnati in the second half. We know we've got to improve, got to give pocket protection, got to be solidify up front. Give Patrick the chance to go through his progression because that's what he's going to have to. He's not going to have the one chance. He's going to have to go through his progression and checking it down and finding the one receiver who can make a play. And on the other side, guys, for the defense, hey, it's all about you can't give up those big chunk plays. I know we talk about the officials, but even Charvarius Ward, the one touchdown he gave up to Chase, he missed with his jam. He didn't be able to reroute the receiver, and it allowed for a touchdown pass to be made. So, again, you just can't make mistakes, especially in the going into the playoffs. You do, it's going to prove to be costly for you. And that's where I think the Chiefs got to learn today is that, hey, let's go back and make sure if there's one thing, I always tell people, communicate. If you got to go up there and point the guy out that you got to block or you're covering, go do it. Believe me, it's okay. But make sure you're all on the same page because it's proved costly for the Chiefs in their losses. When they didn't communicate, it cost them games. So cost them last week against Cincinnati in that game. Let's see when make sure they can make the changes this week.
And on that graphic, you said personally the special teams owes you, Rich, 7 points.
Yes, without a doubt. Listen. When you get a return game, there is no question marks about it. You win in special teams, you score points in special teams. The amount of games you win, it's off the charts. And we had 7 right before the close of the half. I think it would have changed the whole dimension of this game, and we gave it away. And I've been looking for it all year. We haven't had it, and that's why they call it special teams. Give me 7 up there against Denver today on special teams, and you pretty much put the nail in the coffin for the Denver Broncos.
Well, guys, it's prediction time. You know, whenever I look at this and you look at the level of dominance the Chiefs have exuded over the Denver Broncos since 2015, it's unprecedented. But Patrick Mahomes in his career, only 10 career touchdowns against the Denver Broncos. They seem defensively to be able to kind of keep the Chiefs offense in check somewhat. The first game was 22-9. And I think that you're going to look at something a little outside the box here this week. You think back to the Steelers game a couple weeks ago. I think this is a game where the Chiefs offense gets rolling. Patrick Mahomes has some touchdown passes and has a good stat line coming into this, gets other receivers involved. We've really seen Byron Pringle become kind of the team's second receiver here, which is more out of necessity, but props to Byron for being in position, making plays, and keeping the sticks moving. I think the Chiefs win this something like 34-13 and send the regular season out on a high note, and one that we can look back to and say, hey, the Chiefs were able to sort of, get past the loss to the that nasty loss to the Cincinnati Bengals and get to 12-5, which is the very record that I predicted the Chiefs would have before the season. Just saying, not to jump the gun. Noah, what say you?
I think Patrick Mahomes, he has over 375-yard passing, 3 touchdowns, 31-17, a pretty ho-hum, easy victory for the Chiefs here at Denver. Drew Lock isn't going to be able to do it. I think they focus on stopping that run game. Drew Lock's not going to be able to do it in the passing game. Chiefs come away with the victory.
Yeah, guys, I'd have to agree with you. I mean, there's some question marks. I think they're missing half of their offensive line up there in Denver. I think the Chiefs defense goes at him. I think they go at him hard. I'm looking for about 5 sacks out of our defense today. I don't think Drew Lock, I think he has a miserable afternoon for us. I think on the other side of, you know what I liked in that Cincinnati game? How about Hardman on that touchdown catch he had? That was a play. That was nice in that game. And this is where he's got to continue to step up. So look for some of the other people, even Josh Gordon, finally get involved in this offense maybe and help the Chiefs win. But I'm going to go ahead with the Chiefs on a 28-10 win today on the road up there in Denver. Get back in the focus for one playoff game, and hopefully things continue to roll for us going forward.
I like it. 13 straight over the Denver Broncos. Sounds great to me, guys. This is your last week of the regular season. Next week, you're going to have a playoff-ready Kingdom Kickoff, and maybe, just maybe, the football guides line up, and you don't see these happy faces for 2 weeks. We can all hope, right? Thank you so much for being a part of Kingdom Kickoff today, Rich. Thanks to you, my friend, and certainly glad you're back to being, above ground, as it were, metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, that's always good. That's always good, Clint, to be above ground and breathing. Let me tell you. Those are words of wisdom. I'll remember that today.
We set the bar pretty low here, but yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us at Kingdom Kickoff, brought to you by Starcade Media. Enjoy the game, go Chiefs, and we will see you guys come playoff time. Thanks so much.
All right.